Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright friends, let's dive right into it. Today I have a dark romance recommendation video for you and it's going to be Secret Babies. This is going to be like 90% mafia. There's a couple MC romances, Motorcycle Club in here as well. And this video is so kindly sponsored by my channel members. Thank you so much to my channel members who voted on this one. I've had a few people asking for this and you know what? I don't mind making it. I have widely said that really the only type of secret baby that I'm okay with, and I'm going to speak on the difference here in a second, really the only kind of secret baby I'm okay with is kind of two scenarios. This doesn't mean an author can't pull it off a different way. I'm not saying that, but as with most tropes, there's usually a general way that they're told, right? That's why they're called tropes. That's how we get them, is there's similar things that happen in stories. And I don't love the trope of a secret baby where a woman doesn't tell the man just because. It's really not my fave. The two situations where like I'm okay with it is A, if it was a one-night stand and they didn't share their real names and there's no way to get in touch with the person. I have read a few I've enjoyed that way. Number two is if the man is involved in something dark and twisty, and so when the woman knows that or realizes that, she doesn't want to raise her child around that type of man. And those are the situations that I'm really like, usually if I see that, I'm like totally fine with it. But I'm just telling you, when I read a like straight up contemporary and someone decides to keep it a secret just because they think the guy doesn't want a baby or because they think or whatever, I get boily ragey. I've talked about this many times. There was a real life secret baby situation in my family and it caused us to lose 21 years with someone. So that infuriates me. But when it's in mafia or MC or dark romance, I can usually get with it. And again, not saying I never like it in contemporary, but it's a much harder row to hoe for me. So today we'll be going over some of my favorites that are dark and or dark romances. And most of these I remember a lot about. Some of them it's been a while, so if my facts on them are a little bit off, pardon me, but I know for a fact these all have it somehow. Also, one final thing. This will be spoilers for some of the books. In fact, for at least half of them, we don't know this for a while, or it is like a secret in the thing. So Secret Baby can be a spoiler for the book. So I'm just warning you, some of these I'm going to be spoiling some pretty major plot points for the books that they're in. And if you don't want to know that, you're gonna be out of luck, because I'm going to tell you, you know, how the Secret Baby situation comes about, and then, you know, if it's the main point of the book or not, or whatever. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with one of the most recent ones that I read that I think handled it very well, and that's going to be Darkest Sins by Niva Altaj. Yes, I'll find any reason to talk about this author and this book series. I love them so much. And this one particularly is one of my, it's the most recent one to come out, and it is like close to my favorite in the series. This one has a lot of tropes that I love. It's an age gap, it's an assassin, it's a like hidden identity, it's a psychopath, it's a touch her and you die. Like, it has all these things. And the way that this gets started is Nira, she is, you know, a daughter of the mafia, but she has been allowed to go to school. She wants to become a vet, and so she's actually like volunteering, or like an internship with a veterinary clinic. And then we have Kai, who he is an assassin and he does different jobs. He's a gun for hire, as it were, and he knows that someday he's going to get taken out by his job. Like, he's expecting it. He doesn't have anything to live for. He doesn't have anything that's keeping him going. He goes from one job to the other, and that's all that he has. And then one night he does get injured doing his job, and he's like, this is it. This is the one that's going to take me out. I'm going to die. I'm at peace with it. But Nira stumbles across him in an alley when she's walking home, and he refuses to let her call an ambulance, and so she kind of like drags him back into the veterinary office, and she does a quick little like surgery on him. Not really full surgery, but sutures him up, and now he's intrigued by her. First, he starts following her just to kind of like protect her as kind of a payback, and then he finds himself wanting to injure himself so that she has to take care of him again. So there is a case of self-harm, but one of the things I'll say about self-harm, it's literally done so he can spend time with her. So it's maybe one of the sweetest versions of self-harm that I've ever seen, but I'm not a psychologist, so don't take that as gospel or anything. But yeah, they start building this relationship, and for a good part of that, neither of them even knows who the other one is. Now, where does the secret baby part come into this one? So this is one of the ones that it's kind of a big spoiler. I actually had like no idea that this was going to happen in this one, because I don't really need a blurb going into Aniva Altaj because I just trust her. But there comes a point where these two get separated from each other in a really horrible way. And I believe it's like 4 or 5 years later, 3 or 4, I don't know, he's able to crawl his way out of the prison that he's in and make his way back to her, only to discover she has had his child. And that just throws him in a whole loop there. So this one has many layers to it. It's actually like her thickest book, so there's like a lot of steps to this one. And I also don't love time jumps, I really don't. But I thought that this one handled it very well, and it really moved me. It moved me. Alrighty, the next one, we have one that I have to say is a bit controversial for me because it doesn't quite do the things that I want so much, but it also is still an author that I love, and we have Bloody Heart. So yes, this one is a secret baby. We have Dante, is this Gallo? Ada? Gallo? Ada? I always get them mixed up. Dante Gallo, yep, sorry. I mixed the Gallo and the other names in my head in this series so much. But anyway, Dante is the older brother. He has actually served in the military before, but when he was young, he actually met a girl named Simone who was the daughter of a ambassador. And they had this like fling together, and when she discovered he was in the mafia, there's a bunch of shit that goes down, and she ends up being really scared of him, and her parents find out, and like, so everything just blows up on them all at once. And so she ends up being taken away from him after discovering that she's pregnant, and her parents convince her to give the child up to her older sister. And it isn't until many years later that she has the opportunity to meet Dante again. And I think really the thing that bugs me about this one, it isn't that she kept it a secret, because again, we have the scenario that I've said. She sees things boil over in a really awful way, and I can understand her wanting to keep it a secret at that time and being like, I don't want my baby to be raised like this. But it's how long she keeps it a secret from him, like once they meet again, that I have a problem with. So just know that there might be some frustrating moments, but this book sets up my favorite book in the series. We get introduced to Raylan in this, and so I love that. And I mean, a lot of people, this is their favorite because they really love that pining, the second chance romance and all of that. So definitely don't just listen to my opinion. I mean, I'm a Sophie Lark stan pretty much every other way. So I still think it's a good book. It just was my, it's one that I struggle with because of her, like, of how it happens. All right, then we have one that to me is kind of like the quintessential way that I'm okay with stuff going down in a secret baby, because we have our heroine who she has a thing actually for her sister's boyfriend, and her sister just like does not appreciate him, and he's actually the son of a mafia, and he's kind of just dating her sister because like she's pretty, and I mean he likes to fuck her, so that is a thing that's true. He's pretty shallow, and then when he ends up not being with her sister anymore, she still kind of always is pining for him. Fast forward a few years to she happens to be like, I think it's Vegas. Again, it's been a while since I read this one, but we'll get to the part that I love. And she ends up getting into some trouble and being in a bad situation, and he actually like rescues her from the situation, but it leads to them like having sex. How he rescues her leads to them having sex, and she discovers that she's pregnant. And once she discovers that, she does plan to tell him. She absolutely plans to tell him, and I love that about her. I love that. She is like, you know what? This was a one-night thing. It's really messy, but it doesn't matter. And when she goes to tell him, she happens to see him murdering one of the people they're like torturing. And I believe that it's one of the people that owed them money, or he did something bad. It's not like it's a guy that couldn't have had it happen, but she doesn't know that. She didn't even know how much he was involved with the mafia, and she sees him murder this guy. And so she like throws up outside, runs away from it, and she makes herself like disappear. She gets as far away from him as possible. And so nothing that she did there do I find any fault with at all, because she didn't know about the mafia connections. She has always had a thing for him. They have this one night stand. It's really hot, but now she's pregnant, and she tries to tell him, and then she sees that, and she's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Now, when they run into each other years later, he, of course, is super angry, and with the power that he has now, he has the power to make her life and her child's life pretty miserable if she doesn't kind of capitulate to him. So there's definitely some power struggles then when that happens. But I really enjoyed this one because it had all those things that made The Secret Baby like work for me. So yeah, Condemned to Love by Siobhan Davis. Then there is Possess Me by Michelle Hurd. Now this one hurt my guts. This one hurt my guts a lot because these two are actually like held captives together and are forced to, I believe they're like forced to have sex by these two. I can't remember the full situation, but I believe that's what they have to do. And anyway, he believes that she dies when they're like getting taken out of there. And so he just turns into this like ghost of a person. And then when he finds out she's still alive later on, you know, he's really hurt that she didn't come to him, but I believe she keeps it a secret still. I can't remember if she thinks he's dead too, or if she just doesn't want to make her and the child a target because of where it was from. So again, sorry if I'm a little bit weak on that, getting some of these mixed up, but I know that this one had it, and this one was really beautiful. It really was, because they go through some awful stuff together. I think Michelle Hurd goes very dark so that you feel the happy ending for sure. Like you really feel it. Okay, then we have our two, let's sneak our two MC ones in here. So there's Riley's Biker by Misty Walker. This is a series that I love so much. I got all of these signed. I love it. Hang on for a stalkery ride. So yeah, in this one, we have Riley and we have Coyote, I think is how we go with his names. Yeah. And she actually knows who he is. He's part of a like rival biker gang to her family's. And so she doesn't tell him his name. She has a one-night stand with him. And I believe this is when like she steals his jacket. Is this that one? Yes, she steals his like his biker cut, you know, his like vest or whatever. But anyway, they've had this one night stand and she's pregnant and she's never told anyone who the baby daddy is. And then when he discovers her again, he starts kind of like stalking her to find out more about her, because this woman who stole his cut, as well as like she lost her virginity to him. And once he finds her and realizes she has a kid, he puts it together that this is probably his kid. Now with this one, I don't quite love what she did, but because he's from like a rival kind of like biker gang, I understand why she wouldn't want to kind of step into that. And also, she didn't know if he would be a good dad or anything like that. But yeah, so. But I really love this series from Misty Walker, and I mean, it has such a sweet thing. So yeah, it was 5 years separation in this one before they get back together. The other MC one is Fallen Jester by Devney Perry. Now this is a series that is kind of a like halfway MC. Like they used to be a full-on MC and it has been disbanded, but you don't just undo all those loyalties and all those connections just because everything got kind of disbanded. And so there's still some loyalty of the men who were in this MC before still there. But anyway, one of the guys in the club, he has a one-night stand with this gal, and what I like about this one is she does reach out and tell him pretty early on. She doesn't want to, like in the beginning, I don't think she wants to like be with him, but she does tell him, and he very much wants to like support her and be there and try to woo her and keep her for himself and his child. But as it is with a lot of Devney Perry, there definitely is some like suspense elements going on where it could make it very dangerous for her to be with him. But I love the found family aspect. I really love the found family aspect anytime there's an MC, because that's usually built in with it. You know, it's like your chosen family a lot of time. So I really love that about this one, and that they're all ready to like step in and help. All right, then we have a few more Mafias. So we have Filthy Dark by Serena Akeroyd. This is a part of her Irish Mafia series that I really love. The first like 6 in this series. I think I've shared this. I never have finally finished it yet. Maybe someday I will, but I got very, just because of how extensive her world was and how reliant on other POVs the stories were. I don't mind if stories are interconnected. I love that. But she puts so many other people's POVs into it that I don't love. But anyway, I'm not here to rag on that. Dark, Filthy Dark, I love this one. And this was a case of a one-night stand and then not finding out about the kid until like he's a teenager already. So this is a second chance that's almost kind of like a later in life situation. I believe this is another scenario too where like he was supposed to be with like her sister or her cousin or something, and somehow they end up being together and like having this affair, and then they get separated, and now it's been how many years, and her son is like already a teenager, almost a man already. And she's really nervous about him being pulled in because it's like he's the age where he could become a made man, and she really, really does not want that happening to her son. She doesn't want that life for him. But guess what? We don't always get to choose. We don't always get to choose that. All right, then we have Mafia Mistress by Mila Finelli. This is another one where like it's kind of a big spoiler in this that it happens. But when I was reading this book, and I've shared this, I did not care for this book too much. I was really annoyed with the hero Fausto. He was so frustrating. He's supposed to be frustrating, I'll say that. He was so frustrating, and I just was like, so annoyed with him. And Frankie, there were parts of her that I liked, but she also was so immature and young acting. But the point is, like, she is young. Like, she is young. And the stuff that she was being asked to do, the arranged marriage she was supposed to enter, actually with Fausto's son, she just did not want to do those. She wanted to go to college. She wanted to have her own life, and she's being forced into this. And Fausto is just like basically trying to break her will so that she'll marry his son. But A, his son is gay, and so he has no interest in marrying Frankie. And B, he's starting to fall for her himself. So he's like, you know what? Instead of giving her to my son, I should take her for myself. And find someone else for my son to marry, because he's really wanting that to happen. But yeah, it's not gonna go how Fausto expects. And again, when she ends up pregnant, which AKA is like his fault because he's the one banging her all the time and not taking care of it like he should. And he really like rejects her when he finds out. So the cliffhanger at the end of this one, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was so annoyed with these characters. But this is actually the first part in a duet. So the first 2 books in The Kings of Italy are both about Fausto and Frankie. And I was just like, there's no way that I can forgive this guy. But when I finished this book, the cliffhanger that was left, I was like, well, fuck. And I immediately got Mafia Darling. And there was so much growth that happens in it. There really was. And I was really impressed with how I ended up feeling about Fausto by the end of it. I was like, dang it, I kind of like him. And particularly for me, it is how he is with his son who's gay, Giulio, who he's in the MM book that's in this series. I particularly liked how he makes big changes in the Cosa Nostra for his son. Or he tries his best, and I appreciated that. It's not something we see in Mafia romance all that often. And finally, my very, very favorite Mafia Secret Babies is Twisted Pride. So this was such a huge secret when it happened, and it's so funny too because I had no clue what was going to happen. Like, when I read this series, I had no idea what was coming. But what did happen though is when I read this series, I know I'm giving you a little bit of backstory. When I first read this series, I read all of her Bound in Blood series before I started reading this, and including Dante Vitiello's like second book. And in that book, he's dealing with what Ramo is doing to Serafina. And so I knew about the twins before I read this book. And I really wish that I hadn't. I wish I'd read this one first, but it made me so excited for it. So it's not like it ruined, like it spoiled it, but also it just made me so excited. I was so hyped for the Kimora Chronicles by the time I read it, y'all. I can't even tell you. It was just, I needed it so bad. But anyway, all of that. We have Ramo Falcone. He is a shit stirrer and the capo of the Kimora in Vegas, and he's tired of all the shit that's happening with the outfit and the La Familia, and he wants to get revenge against Dante. And so what does he do? He kidnaps Dante's niece, Serafina, on her wedding day. She's supposed to be having an arranged marriage. It's good for the family, blah, 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 blah. He kidnaps her in her beautiful white dress and takes her to Vegas and keeps her as his captive. And he threatens to, like, take her virginity and send the sheets back home. And he threatens, like, all these things. Now, he does end up being the one who takes her virginity and then goes down on her after he's taken her virginity. Gives himself a, like, bloody face from it. Oh, my. But he can't help but fall in love with her. And so she's falling in love with the devil and he's falling in love with his angel. And when he eventually sends her back, it's more surprising to her that she doesn't quite want to leave, because he's made her feel more free in her captivity with him than she ever was back home, because she couldn't make any decisions for herself back there. She was just going to be the happy little mafia wife that all the women there are supposed to be. And he really opened her eyes to other things that could be. And B, she ends up being pregnant, and the way that her twins are looked at, particularly because they look like Ramo, it's a matter of, are they going to be bastards here with my family, or are they going to be a prince and princess with the Kimora in Vegas? And so that's a decision as a mother that Serafina has to make. So this is in my top 2 mafia romances of all time. So definitely, if you haven't, definitely read the Kimora Chronicles, for sure. You can start with Twisted Loyalties and go from there if you don't want to read all of them, but yeah. So there you go. Those are some of my favorite dark romances that are secret babies. So yeah, I hope that you will give some of them a try. I'll have links to all of these down below if you want to go right to the Amazon link and get it, or, you know, check out one of my other links down there. Check out my Instagram. Check out my Patreon if you want to support what I do here. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye.